How's it going, guys? Andrew from Batting Sixth here, back again with another video here, continuing to update you guys on the Blue Jays offseason. So if you guys are new here, be sure to like this video and subscribe. Thank you for over 500 subscribers. Obviously, the next goal is 600, but I'd love to hit 1,000. That would be pretty incredible. So we don't waste any time on this channel. We need to give you some updates. Now, I want to look at this tweet right here. MLB Network put out a video almost a day ago now. I'm sure by the time you guys are watching this, it's over a day ago. And Ben Turner, who is regularly quote tweeting and giving out pretty good information here, says that during this video, Robert, as in Robert Murray, says the Jays were a distant third for Tucker. Now, I did watch this clip, and it does seem like the Blue Jays were third place. Now, it's hard to look at this and go, well, how? Well, you don't know any money term, nothing like that. We know what the Dodgers offered because they got him at that $60 million per season, ridiculous number, and the Mets were pretty damn close to that. Well, the Blue Jays were in long term, and we did know that. And John Heyman saying the Blue Jays offer to Kyle Tucker was $350 million for 10 years. That is an insane amount of money. To be completely honest with you, everything that we heard during this offseason was that Kyle Tucker didn't want to play in the big market. He didn't want to play where there's a lot of attention. He didn't want to do a short-term deal. He wanted long-term. He wanted that stability. He doesn't like going back into free agency. And all of that kind of went out the window. He signed with the back-to-back World Series champions. He went to a massive baseball market. And, you know, any of these teams are huge baseball markets, but he signed for short term. And it was basically everything that I was trying to say to people during these videos, and not the sense of that he was going to go to the Dodgers, because I thought it was Mets or Blue Jays. And like I said, I thought it was going to be the Mets. But I said a million times, and I will continue to say it, take everything with a grain of salt. A lot of these reporters, and again, no discredit to them, like I always say, they just throw stuff at a wall, they throw darts, and they're seeing what hits. And usually shock jocks and people that look for, you know, clickbait titles and everything like that, they want you to believe whatever they're selling. And unfortunately, it seems like once again this offseason, there was a lot of BS. There was a lot of things that were completely fabricated, a lot of made up stuff, and a lot of things where people were just guessing, because we had, you know, again, no discredit to these people, but like Ken Rosenthal saying the Blue Jays were the favorite, they were the leaders, and then 2 days later, him not even mentioning them as a team that was in for a big bat. So where does that leave the Blue Jays? Are they going to be going after a big bat? And I think I still share the same thoughts as Keegan Matheson, who is one of the best out there. If you guys don't listen to anything that he says, or you don't listen to his radio hits, I highly suggest it. He's fantastic. So Keegan says, I still think the Blue Jays could still use another high-end bat. There's a major outfield need beyond 26-2. Amid all the reporting and all the guesswork carefully presented as fact, it's also important to acknowledge deals can happen that no one expect, like Jimenez. Yeah, and that one came out of nowhere. Spencer Horwitz, I believe, went the other way. That was a guy that a lot of fans wanted. I liked him a lot, but Jimenez was a huge part. Jimenez was a huge part of our World Series run, like, to be completely honest with you. And his defense is going to be huge now at shortstop without Bo Bichette there. And I'm not talking Bo's defense. I'm just talking about the fact that Jimenez is now the full-time shortstop. That guy's going to play there barring a big trade. But I agree with this. And what he's talking about in the outfield is that Dalton Varsho and George Springer are both free agents. And I do believe they're going to be monitoring how Springer performs this season. But I would extend Varsho, and maybe people don't agree with that. I think you should. You still need a guy out there. You're not going to run, you know, Barger, Santander, Lucas next year. You want to be able to run Varsho out there and maybe even bring back Springer if he's willing to take, you know, a short-term deal. The Blue Jays will probably be able to afford it, seeing as though they didn't go and get Kyle Tucker. So that turns us to what's next. What could the Blue Jays do? Is there still a big bat out there? And I think a lot of people are still talking about Cody Bellinger. And Ben Nicholson-Smith put out this article that has some interesting things. And stay tuned for this, because there is something very interesting about this that kind of threw me off today. I was talking to my friends about it, and it definitely is throwing me off. Now, this is why it's throwing me off a little bit. So He writes, at this point in the winter, the free agent market has thinned out, and there aren't many players who'd represent meaningful upgrades for the Blue Jays beyond Bellinger. It's unclear how much recent contact they've had with Framber Valdez, but for what it's worth, I heard they met with him in person at the Las Vegas GM meetings, and that was the pre-Cease deal. And there was some mutual interest at that point. If the Blue Jays wanted to go all in on run prevention, they could reignite those talks, but most in the industry consider the Mets and Orioles more likely suitors for the left-hander. So, two things there. One, Cody Bellinger. And we might as well just bring up his numbers, but I don't think the Blue Jays are going to be going after Cody Bellinger. I think a lot of people are just assuming that. I don't know if the Blue Jays are going to be in on him. So, if you look at his numbers last year, pretty damn good numbers. 272 batting average. He had how many RBIs? 98 and 29 home runs. But as you can see, he's had some really hot and cold seasons. He had some pretty bad ones with the Dodgers. Obviously limited games, but he hasn't really been that incredible player that he was last year and a couple years ago. He's kind of had some up and down years, and I'm not really sure if the Blue Jays front office is willing to invest in that. But the Framber Valdez thing, and we're going to look at his numbers, and then I'm kind of going to give my thoughts on that. But we all know that there have been reports of attitude issues, and, that's something to be definitely cautioned about. But since 2020, look at his numbers. This guy is lights out. He pitches like damn near 200 innings almost every year. He's up in the 170 to 200 range almost every year, and his ERA is always under 4. Like, this guy is a lights out left-handed pitcher. But again, the attitude and the fact that the Blue Jays have a surplus of pitchers. But what I find interesting, and again, I love Ben Nicholson-Smith. I love guys like Shai Davidi, but they don't usually stick their neck out there. They don't usually go out of nowhere and be like, yeah, keep an eye on this. They don't talk a lot. When they do, it means something, and I genuinely mean that. And that would be a dream to have those guys on this channel, to be completely honest with you. I might reach out and hope for the best. Keegan Matheson, any of those guys, if they're watching, I would be honored to have them on here. But when you look at those guys, and especially BNS, Ben Nicholson-Smith, a lot of people joke around saying that he likes to pour cold water on a lot of things. He tweeted again talking about Framber Valdez today. I don't know if that actually means anything, but the fact that he keeps kind of poking and hinting makes me wonder if Framber Valdez's camp has gone to the Blue Jays and was like, hey, listen, I know you guys offered a lot of money for a position player, but if you want to go all in on pitching, we're still interested. And that could just be to get the Blue Jays to up a bidding war between the Orioles and the Mets potentially, but that's something to keep an eye on. I think it's pretty weird because I don't think the Blue Jays are necessarily in the starting pitching market. If they are, I mean, something's got to give, and it more than likely pushes Barrios completely out. But he's not going to go to the bullpen unless you're going to run a 6-man rotation and allow Bieber and Yasavage to get regular rest, because Yasavage hasn't pitched a ton of innings and Bieber is coming off of an injury still. So there is a chance that they could do that, but I mean, it's not the worst idea. I just think that their next move is likely to be a trade. And we're going to talk about that in the next video that I make, barring any other moves. So let me know what you guys think. Sorry, I talk really fast sometimes and maybe it's too much information, but we got a lot more videos to talk about. I've got like 50 videos that I could literally film right now talking about the Blue Jays because there's so much still to look at. So if you are new here, be sure to like this video and subscribe. This is Andrew from Batting Sixth. Let's go Blue Jays. I'll see you in the next one.